Hello and welcome to IP Study Video Lectures. And today we are going to discuss Chapter 4 from Grade 6 Social Science, and the name of the chapter is Exploring History, Timeline and Sources. In this chapter, we are going to cover a few important topics. These are who are historians, followed by time and dates, sources of history, and lastly, the history of modern humans. So now before we discuss the first topic, let us first understand what history is. So history, it is a word derived from a Greek word historia, and this means knowing by inquiry. Okay, and to define history, history is the study of people and event from the past. Okay, so study of people and event from the past, and history helps us to understand how the world has changed over time and what are the lessons that we can learn from these changes. Okay, it covers politics, economic, social, cultural lives of people. As such, history helps us understand about the people and their occupation, their clothes, their food, the civilization, the cities or villages where they lived. So all this is we understand through the help of history. And history also can explore the lives of the people from you can say 100 years ago or 200 years ago or from thousands of years ago. Okay, so this is a brief introduction about history. So now let us discuss the first topic of the chapter, who are historians. So historians are people who study and write about the past. They study how people lived in the past, how society was in the past and how society has changed, how the lives of people have changed, and what are the significant events that has happened that has shaped the life of the people in the modern times. So all this we study, historians study. Okay, and in the study of history, historians they use various sources such as written sources. It can be anything. It can be books, it can be journals, it can be court chronicles, it can be autobiography of kings or biographies of king, anything. And they piece together different sources to create a blueprint or impression of cultural and social life of people in the past. So now let us see, how do historians write about history? So historians write about history by gathering information from various sources. Okay, not just one source but multiple sources, and in this process they do not work alone, they also take help from other professionals. Now let us first see the source using written records. As I've already discussed, historians study different written records. It can include text, it can include inscription, it can include journals, it can include court chronicles and so on. And these documents help historians to understand the events from the past. Okay, the belief, the culture of the people, the food habits, everything, the historians whatever they know, they get to know, or they create a blueprint about the past through these sources, and one of this is written source. Now let us see the professions or the occupation, different occupation that helps historians. Firstly, archaeologists. So archaeologists are the people who study about the past objects. They dig, they excavate the objects from the ground, and this helps historian. And let us see how. So the object from the past can be anything. It can be tool, it can be coins, it can be pottery, it can be jewelry. So historians use these artifacts that has been dug up by the archaeologist, and they try to find out how people lived or what they believed, what they ate, and what their houses or homes look like. So archaeologists help historians to learn about all those things. Okay, and suppose if a historian wants to find or research about a particular city or ancient civilization, so archaeologists provides the we can say artifacts or objects, and these objects can help historian create an impression. Okay, and archaeological objects are very important when there are no written text or records. So it's only the objects, or examining these objects can help historians learn about the past. Second one, anthropologists. So who are anthropologists? So anthropologists are the people who study about the people and their culture from the present and also from the past. Okay, and anthropologists, they help historians to learn about the belief, the culture of the people and the society in the past. Okay. Thus, anthropologists, they help historians to compare the society and cultures at the present and also with the past. And in this process, they understand how humans has evolved socially and culturally. Okay, so anthropologists help historians to understand how humans evolved culturally and socially. Now let us see paleontologists. So who are paleontologists? So paleontologists are the people who study fossils. What are fossils? So fossils are the remains of plants and animals trapped within the rock, or we can say remains of the plants and animals trapped in the soil. Okay, and it can be of millions of years ago. Okay, so paleontologists help historians understand the relationship between the humans and the animals. Suppose a paleontologist discovered a bone of a particular animal. So by researching about the bone, the historian can find out whether that animal was a domesticated animal or a wild animal, or was a wild animal. Suppose if it was domesticated, then we can say that the particular civilization domesticated animals. Suppose it was a bone of a wild animal, historians can say, okay, maybe this animal was hunted. So in this way, paleontologists help historians. Now comes geologists. So geologists are the people who study about the physical features of the earth. It can include land, it can include landforms, different landforms like mountain, plateaus, plains, okay, different physical features. And how do they help historians? Geologists study about different evidence of natural disasters. So suppose if there is a evidence that a particular natural disaster happened, so historians can say that, okay, because of this natural disaster, there was a migration of particular group of people in the past, or it affected this civilization. For example, the volcanic eruption of Pompeii, which destroyed the civilization of Pompeii or the settlements of Pompeii. Now, epigraphists and numismatists. So who are epigraphists? Epigraphists are the people who study inscription. What are inscription? Inscription are written on hard surface like walls, we can say pillars, or even caves. So epigraphists, they study inscription. Okay, and we know inscription gives a lot of information. It can give information about the rulers, or it can give information about the message that the rulers conveyed, or the details recording of the historic battles or victory. So many information is provided by inscription. So by providing this information to the historians, historians can understand about the political, cultural and even economic aspects of that particular civilization from the past. Now comes numismatists. So numismatists are the people who study about the coins. As we all know, we get a lot of information from the coin. Even if you see a modern day or present day coin, we can see different features there, right? We can see a lot of information in the coin. We can see the value it carries. We can see some symbols in it. So coins also have symbols. They might have inscription of some rulers, or even have some symbols related to the rulers or even god and goddesses. So this information helps historians build up a perspective about that particular period or ruler. And now lastly, use of modern technology. First one is geneticists. So who are geneticists? They are the people who study about DNA. So geneticists, they analyze DNA, and with this they can actually help historians. Suppose we found a DNA about a Viking. So historians can say, okay, this was a DNA of a Viking. So he lived in this particular region, or he migrated from this particular region, he ate this. So all this information actually comes from a piece of DNA information. So thus historians, they take help from different professions while they are trying to explore the past events or history. Now let us discuss the second point, that is time and dates. So historians have divided time or the past into three different periods. Firstly, prehistory. It is that period of history where there are no written evidence or no written record exists. We do not have any written record about this period. Second is proto-history. In this period, we do find some communities have written evidence or written records, but these evidence are not adequate, or it is very, we can say, scarce or scanty. This is proto-history. And lastly, we have history, where we have ample of evidence of written records. So, three periods historians have divided the past. First, prehistory, proto-history and history. Now, let us see about dating the events of history. Today, if someone asks you about the date or the day, we can all answer, right? We can say today is 21st of May and today is Wednesday. We can say this. How? This is because of the calendar. We follow a standard uniform calendar, and that calendar is called the Gregorian calendar. It was introduced by Pope Gregory XIII in 1582. Okay. And this calendar is widely accepted. However, this is not the only calendar. Different communities, different religions have their own calendar. Okay. Like the Muslims have their own calendar, the Jewish, the Chinese, the Hindu. We all have our own calendars, but normally we follow the Gregorian calendar. Now, okay, so before we jump into the next portion, see, this is the picture of Pope Gregory XIII, who introduced the Gregorian calendar. So now let us talk about the Gregorian calendar in detail. So Gregorian calendar is based on one important event. Okay, the reference point is a very significant event, and that is the birth of the Jesus Christ. Okay, it is a reference point for recording dates. So birth of the Jesus Christ, suppose this and this. So this is the past, or we can say this is a division of a calendar. So all the years before the birth of Jesus Christ, it is called BC, before Christ, or now we say BCE, before Common Era. Okay, and all the years after the birth of Jesus Christ, it is called AD, Anno Domini, or CE, Common Era. Okay, so this is the division. So this portion, this particular event is very significant, and we have to understand one thing: all the years before the birth of Jesus Christ, it is counted backward. For example, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, like this way. And all the years after the birth of Jesus Christ, we count normally like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and we should know that there is no year 0 in the Gregorian calendar. So the thing is 10, 9, I'm talking about the BC, before Christ. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Year 1 is the birth of Jesus Christ, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this, we have Common Era years. So for example, the birth of Mahatma Gandhi, 1869, we say CE, or we can say Mahatma Gandhi was born 1869 years after the Jesus Christ, or we can say after the birth of Jesus Christ. Or Ashoka was born in 304 BC, or we can say 304 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. So in this way, Gregorian calendars divide the period before Christ and after Christ, or AD, Anno Domini, or Common Era, or before Common Era. So now next topic is timeline. So what is a timeline? So this is a diagram of a timeline. Okay, so we can say this is a timeline. So in this timeline, we can see years mentioned. See, 12,000 backwards, 10,000, 8,000, 6,000. So these are significant years, or we can say it is a landmark years, and we have the birth of Jesus Christ, and we have this Common Era. So all the significant events like this, the end of the last ice age, 11,700 years BC, right? The birth of Buddha, 4th century, or Ashoka. So if you can see here, there is a sequence, there is a chronological order. Okay, and we have this after birth of Jesus Christ, we have Common Era, and birth of Gandhi, like already I have discussed, 1869. So in history, we find there are ample number, or we can say large number of significant events So to know all these significant events in a sequence is a very difficult task. So timeline is a tool that helps us to understand all these events in a chronological order or in a correct sequence. Okay, what came before what? Okay, did Gautam Buddha came before Asoka, or Asoka came before Gautam Buddha? So this, whatever confusion we might have, timeline actually solves it. Okay, it gives us a correct sequence of events and dates. So this is timeline. So now let us understand different time spans. So historians, they have categorized different time span by giving them different terms. Okay, first is decade. So decade is a period of 10 years. So when we call a period of 10 years a decade, and when we say 2020s, we are just referring to the year 2020 to 2029, a period of 10 years. Okay, now comes century. Century is a period of 100 years. Okay, currently it is the 21st century. That means year 2001 to 2100 or 2100. So this is the 21st century, a period of 100 years. Lastly, millennium, period of 1000 years. Okay, and currently we are in the third millennium, right? So a millennium starts from 1 BC to 1000 BC, that is the first, 1001 to 2000 second, and 2001 to 3000, that will be the third millennium. Now come the next topic, sources of history. I've already discussed historians use various sources or evidence in order to study history, in order to construct what happened in the past. Okay, so this is a classification of different sources of history, and there are four main classifications. First, archaeological sources, literary sources, oral sources, and artistic sources. And all these sources or all these classification are further subdivided. First, archaeological sources, subdivided into three main: excavations, structures, and inscriptions. Okay, structures again subdivided into two more: mounds and monuments, and inscription again two more: manuscripts and coins. Secondly, literary sources, again subdivided into two main parts: Indian literature, foreign accounts. When we talk about foreign accounts, we have travelogues of foreign travelers and historical chronicles. When we talk about Indian literature, it is again subdivided into two categories: religious literature and secular literature. Under religious literature, all the texts that is related to religion, could be Vedas, could be Upanishad, and epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana. And under secular literature, we have all the written text that is not related to any religion, could be historical text, could be collection of stories, could be scientific and technological text, and lastly poems and plays. So these are not related to any religion. Okay, so this is the literary source. Now comes oral sources. Okay, divided into two: genealogical and folklore. And lastly, artistic source, it is divided into paintings, sculptures, and panels. So this is the we can say a detailed classification of different sources of history. So now let us discuss the first source, that is archaeological source. So archaeology is study of culture of the past period of history by examining the remains of buildings or objects. Okay, so archaeology is the study of past cultures, and this is done through examining the objects from the past. Okay, and why it is important? Because it gives us idea about the people who lived before and their lives, how did they live. Okay, and archaeologists, I have already mentioned, are the people who study about study these objects, and occasionally many of these objects are buried deep under the ground. So the process of digging to find these objects is called excavation. This is a picture. So these are archaeologists who are digging or excavating in order to find some objects from the past. So now, why is archaeological source important? Because when we talk about prehistory, we do not have any written record. We only have objects, or we only have the remaining of buildings or monuments. So these act as a evidence for historians in order to find the culture, the social life, or even the political life of the people who lived in the past. So now comes the monument. So monuments refers to the old buildings and structures that have some historical connection, importance, or some legacy. Okay, and monuments include mosque, temples, church, we can say cemeteries, we can say palaces, forts, and even caves. Okay, and monuments are very important because it gives insights to the architectural innovation and development of a particular period from the past. For example, when we take the example of Taj Mahal, we understand or we get information about the Mughal period. Okay, the architectural innovation and development at that time and the artistic taste of the Mughals. So all this information historians derive from this particular monument. Next is inscription. So inscription refers to the writing on a relatively hard surface. It could be stone or metals, it could be on the walls, or it could be on pillars also. So inscription provide a lot of information. I have already discussed this, that we understand or we get information like what the king tried to convey, the messages of the king, or the records of victories of the kings, or we can also find about a particular work done by a particular important person. So all this information we get from inscription. However, we do not find inscription about the common people. Okay, because writing inscription required a lot of resource at that particular period. So common people did not have that resource. Also, they did not feel that it's important for them to record their day-to-day life. Okay. Now, the study of inscription is called epigraphy. Okay, and there is a script. A script has a signs and letters, and the process of understanding the script is called decipherment, because we do not know the old or ancient script on letters, so we have to decipher it. Okay, so once we decipher, only then we can understand what is written in the inscription or the information hidden in the inscription. Coins. Already discussed coins. Coins give a lot of information. We can find many information that is in the coin. It can be symbols of rulers, it can be symbols of gods and goddesses. Okay, and we can also find the architectural or artistic skills involved or the development at that particular period. When we see the design and polish of a particular coin, this gives us the artistic skills of the people of that particular period. So lastly, artifacts. Artifacts refers to the man-made objects. It can include pottery, it can include weapons, tools, jewelry, anything. Okay, man-made objects are the artifacts, and artifacts give us information about the day-to-day life, the culture, occupation, and social life also. For example, if we find a particular weapon, okay, we can understand what metal was used at that particular period, or what kind of weapon it is. Is it a weapon to hunt animals, or it is just a tool to do farming? So all this information we can get from artifacts. Now comes second source, that is literary source. So literary source includes all type of written text. It can be stories, it can be books, it can be anything that is written. Okay, and in ancient times when paper was not popular or not common, people used to write on the birch bark of a tree. They used to write on the palm leaves and even on the skin of animals. So all this come under literary source, and literary source give us information about the political, economical, social and cultural aspects of the people living in the past. Now, literary source can be categorized into Indian literature, foreign accounts. Okay, and Indian literature, as already we discussed, religious and secular literature. Under religious literature, we find manuscript that is religious in nature, Vedas, Ramayana, and all this religious literature throws light or give information about the belief, culture and the condition, cultural and social condition during the particular period in history. On the other hand, secular literature gives information about social aspects, but they are not connected, they are not religiously connected, or they are not connected to any religion. It can be a book, it can be stories, it can be court chronicles, it can be personal journals of travelers. So every written document that has no connection with any religion comes under the secular literature. For example, the Arthashastra written by Chanakya. It gives information about the economics and military tactics. On the other hand, we also have Aryabhatta's Arya Bhattiya. It gives information about the astronomy, mathematics and algebra. Okay. We also have Abhijana Sakuntalam. It is a play written by Kalidasa. So all this it can be plays, all these stories, plays that does not come under religious literature comes automatically under secular literature. Lastly, we have foreign accounts. So many people from many different parts of the world came to India, Greek, Roman, Chinese, okay, and they wrote or they recorded their experience and whatever they observed in their journey to India. For example, we know about Alexander invasion with the help of Greek records. On the other hand, we also have Indica. It was written by Megasthenes, who was a Greek ambassador to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. It gives valuable information about the Mauryan Empire. On the other hand, we also have personal journals written by pilgrims like Fahenhang Jozang. Okay, they wrote about the social, religious and cultural practices that they observed during their visit in India. Another source is oral source. So oral source include knowledge passed down verbally. Okay, and it includes song, stories, folklores, legend, myths, anything that is passed verbally comes under oral sources. We do not have any written record. And before writing was popular, this was the main method by which knowledge and information regarding different things, could be tradition, could be cultures, was passed from one generation to another. Okay, thus we have oral source. Important is folklores. So what are folklores? These are traditional stories, myth, legends that gives us information about the values, cultures and belief of the people during a particular period of time. Okay, and folklores normally have different characters. Okay, it can have god, goddesses and even supernatural beings. So these are all part of oral source of history. Lastly, we have artistic source. Artistic source includes paintings, we have sculptures, carvings and murals, and it shows the artistic aspects of history and culture from the past. Now let us see paintings. Paintings provide a lot of information. Even if you see the paintings during the British period, we can get a lot of information from there. Okay, and paintings normally portrays a particular ruler or an important figure from the past or important events from the past. It can be a court scene of a Mughal empire, or it can be a procession or a victory march, or it can also depict or show battle scenes. Okay. Sculptures, on the other hand, it illustrates different cultural or beliefs. For example, the sculpture of Sanchi Stupa, it depicts the scenes from the Buddha's life. On the other hand, the carvings on the Khajurai temple, it shows the Hindu belief of that particular period. So, we have covered the different sources of history. Okay, be it archaeological, be it literary, be it oral, or be it artistic. Now, let us discuss the last topic, that is the history of modern humans. We know the earth is 4.5 billion years old. However, plant, animals and mankind, they came much later. The early humans that came, we call them Homo sapiens, and they lived a nomadic life, so they were also called nomads. So what do we mean by nomadic life? That means they move from one place to another in search of food, water. Okay, so they were also called hunter-gatherers. Why they were called hunter-gatherers? Because they had no idea about farming and agriculture. So they used to hunt animals and they used to gather food. Food can be anything. It can be leaves, it can be fruits, it can be roots of plants. So anything. So they used to hunt and they used to gather food. That's why they are called hunter-gatherer. So why did early humans live a nomadic life or move from one place to another? So the answer to this is they lacked food supply after living in a particular area. Okay, they used to gather all the food supply. So now they face the shortage of food supply. So now they shift to another area where there is a good food supply, or they can find a good amount of food. Also, they used to follow the rivers, because rivers were source of water. Water is very important, right? So they used to follow the rivers, and in rivers they used to fish also. They used to hunt fish. We can say fishing. And lastly, they used to hunt animals, right? And animals also migrate. So they used to follow the migration of animals. So that's why they lived a nomadic life and they moved from one place to another. Now let us see the religious belief in the ancient time, or we can say early humans. So before the discovery, or we can say before the origin of different religions, mainstream religion, early humans did have a faith. They also used to believe in something, and their faith was mostly tied to natural elements, be it sun, the moon, or nature. Okay, and there is certain evidence we find in burials, right? They used to bury objects with their dead one. This signifies that they also believed in the afterlife or life after death. Shelters. So early humans, the earliest humans, they had no idea about house. They did not know how to build house. So they lived in caves, because caves protected them from extreme weather condition and also predators. But in due course of time, they learned how to build shelter. As such, they used animal hides to make tents. They also built huts in forest and also built small huts using stones. And slowly they evolved, and today we build Pakka house using concrete. Discovery of fire. So discovery of fire is a significant event in the life of humans. With the discovery of fire, human understood that cooked food tastes better, it is easier to digest also, and fire also provided them warmth and also protection from wild animals. Fire also served as a social hub, because early humans, they used to gather around fire. So there was a bond or connection or societal, we can say connection or development because of fire. Tools and equipment. When we talk about tools and equipment, early humans did develop some tools. They used stones. Okay, they shaped stone and they made tools, and these tools were used by early humans to dig or even hunt animals. They also used bones of animals, and in due course of time, they understood that using tools can make many things easier. Okay, and with this, slowly they evolved, and today we have different metals, and today we have different advanced tools. Paintings. So not only the medieval period, early humans also, there are evidence showing paintings done by early humans. In caves, early humans did make some figures. Okay, however, some figures are very complex, while some figures are very simple, depicting them hunting or depicting some cultural or social aspects of their life. Okay, early humans did not have any colors. They used natural colors, like they crushed flowers or leaves, or even used soil. Okay, so this artworks, what does it shows? That early humans did have some ritualistic or symbolic importance. Okay, so they serve as a storytelling or expression regarding the life of early humans. So now let us see the beginning of agriculture. So around 12,000 years ago, there was a significant climatic shift. So, as such, the end of Ice Age, and now the temperature started to become warmer. So this warming temperature, it encouraged the growth of green pastures or grassland in various regions. And now this grassland, it supported large number of herbivore animals like deer, goats, and antelopes, sheep. And early humans, they used to hunt all these animals for their food, right? So they used to observe the pattern of their migration, their food habits, and their breeding pattern. So now there was an idea. So early humans got an idea. So instead of hunting them, why don't we domesticate them? Why don't we tame these animals? So thus, domestication of animals began. Okay, so this was the beginning of domestication of animal. We can also say that during this period, fishing became a very important activity or source of food. Now let us see agriculture. So the term agriculture derived from two Latin word ager meaning field, cultura meaning cultivation. So therefore, agriculture refers to the science and art of cultivating the soil to grow crops as well as domesticate or raise animals for food and other products. Okay, so now, this practice, agriculture and domestication animal, marked a very significant turn in the life of early humans, because now they started to live a sedentary life, or we can say now they stopped living a nomadic life. Before they used to move from place to place. Now with agriculture and domestication of animal, they started living in a permanent place. So in this box, a brief information about how domestication of even crops evolved. Okay, before we had wild wheat. Okay, now with the correct cross selections of different breeds, we today have got the best species of wheat. Same goes for rice. Okay, now let us see domestication of animal in detail. We have already discussed what gave the idea of domestication of animal. Now let us see in detail. So taming of dog began in the Mesolithic age. Okay, humans now started to tame animals, dogs, horse, sheep, goats, cows, buffaloes, because humans realized that instead of killing them and just eating them, they can serve multiple purpose, right? If we have dog, it can help us in hunt. If we have sheep, goats, we can actually get many things from them. We can actually get meat, we can actually get wool, we can actually get leather. So instead of just killing them, early humans, they started herding and they started domesticating them. So now this portion already discussed. With domestication of animal, early humans got a continuous supply of food. Okay, so rearing of animal also means they were getting a lot of products from these animals, and thus in order to take care of these animals and in order to take care of the crops that they have planted, because agriculture has also started, they started living a sedentary life. So now lastly, ornament and trade. So early humans, or the humans in the past, ancient times, did also wear ornaments. They developed or they created ornaments such as stone or shell beads and pendants. Okay, and they use this for personal decoration or status symbols. Okay, like today we wear jewelry as investment or even to show our status. Similarly, in the ancient time also, people wore ornament to show status or show for personal decoration. And one thing we have to understand, humans started exchanging these ornaments. As such, we can say now the trade, or we can say barter system, also evolved or developed slowly. Thus, this exchange of good helped different communities foster connection and communication. So with this, I have come to the end of the chapter. Now let us summarize few important points that we have discussed in the lecture. First point, today we follow Gregorian calendar. It was introduced by Pope Gregory XIII in 1582. All the periods before the birth of Jesus Christ is called before Christ or before Common Era, and all the years after the birth of Jesus Christ are called Anno Domini or Common Era. Timeline, it organizes dates and events in a chronological order and help us to make a historical sequence, correct historical sequence. Historians divide the past into three: prehistory, proto-history and history. Sources of history classified into four categories: archaeological, literary, orally and lastly artistic. People who study archaeology are called archaeologists. Archaeological sources include monuments, coins, artifacts and inscriptions. Literary sources includes all the written text, and it is categorized into two: Indian literature and foreign accounts. Indian literature again into two: secular and religious. And lastly, oral sources include folklores, and artistic source includes paintings and sculptures. So with this I end the lecture. I hope my lecture was able to help you clarify your doubts, and we will again meet in our next lecture. Thank you.